Sebastian sent me a little challenge a few weeks ago to add some search filters to the contents list, and I kind of have something that mostly works. So time for a little demo. There's a few little things that aren't perfect yet, but the idea was to introduce a little bit more searching into the admin list and also the users, and make it look a little bit like what GitHub are doing. So have a search syntax now. So in here I can do things like beach and lizards, and I'll just get the operations that get the items that have both of those in it. I can do other things like beach not lizards, do beach or what was the other thing I put in there? Mountains maybe. The default being beach and mountains. Sorry, the default being or. I can then clear that and do.
Why is it all? Why is it all?
It's all because that's how Lucene does it actually.
That's interesting.
The Lucene parser.
I want Bertrand's opinion on that, because when you add more things, usually you want to see less stuff, no?
Well, I base the Boolean stuff, and if I've got it wrong, tell me, and we'll get it the other way around. But base the Boolean stuff off the Lucene parser syntax, where the default was when you have nothing between stuff. So mountain. So you get more stuff. There's an extra space there that I didn't want. That's annoying. Whereas if you actually want to be specific, then you have to start restricting it down. So there's nothing that has mountain and beach in it, but there's probably something that has beach and lizards, if I remember. Yeah, okay. So it had to come up with some random strings to test this with. Yeah, so you can do that. You can do filtery things, and then the filters start showing up in here, which is nice. They show up there when they're not the default. If I go back to latest, be published. There's a typo there, definitely. Got no drafts at the moment, so you can delete those. Same with sorts. And I was just having a look, but I haven't quite finished it. But I think you can also do yeah, you can partly do modifiers here. I haven't quite finished all of that, but you can do modifiers on those to get ascending or descending, just to reverse the orders. And what else does it do? So in another scenario, not this particular scenario, you can also name the argument. So you could, if you'd registered, you could have text, and then you could have a body term as well, and something goes in the body, and any other kind of named arguments, but they have to be kind of pre-registered as a field in a query. To actually work in at the moment, I've just got text in there because it's just the display text that we kind of tend to use in this this list.
You have groups?
So yes, we have groups. Sorry, bear with me half a second. Yep, so we have groups. So you can do beach. Oh, it worked. Excellent. So in terms of syntax,
are the operators uppercase all the time?
The operators are uppercase all the time. And I think at the moment I've got and in there as an operator as well. There's a few little tweaks to be done here. or also borrowed from the Lucene parser syntax. It's lowercase, but that won't actually matter for SQL in this case. Beach. May or may not have worked. Not quite what I was expecting. Clear that. Yeah, so I borrowed Lucene syntax, so grouping, don't have this, and don't have plus. Doesn't quite make as much sense when translating it to SQL to be able to do those. The dash maybe might be a good swap in for not, and easy to add as well. I just haven't got to thinking about it yet.
Isn't dash dot not?
The way they describe it here, they describe it slightly differently. So because I hadn't quite had a chance to read it properly, I haven't included it yet. But I think it probably is. It's just plus is a little different, because when the Lucene parser breaks it down, it doesn't really break it down into proper Boolean operators. It breaks it down into match, not match. But I think for the purposes of this, substituting plus and into and not would work well, would suit well. Generally makes sense to people. Yeah, so that's that little thing.
That's great.
So
and
nice
it's not using
parser.
Lucene. And it's not using Lucene, just SQL, so you don't need to enable Lucene to have that.
Yep, so you don't need to enable Lucene. I need to make another PR to SQL to make a couple of things async, because there's some requirement. Basically what you do is you register for the contents list, parsers, and then you register functions on the parser for when it succeeds to do type conversions into this enum, for example, and then the actual query action will take place. So that's the status one. This one is the sort one, which just allows to do sorts in different ways. And this is the text one, which has one func for the positive match, and another one for when it's negative, so it can do a is not in. And I probably need to make these async, just looking at some of the stuff we have in the current content list filters that I haven't got in there yet. So yeah, so registration is reasonably easy and simple, and yeah, reasonably pleased with it actually.
How do you parse this query string?
So the query string is passed by a parser. Sorry, my mouse is playing up on me. So what we do is we register a parser here, which is a named term parser. Which is this parser here. So using your Pilot parsing tool, these are some parsers that I built up on top of them, which then lean on some other parsers that get passed into them. So the term parser, and this would work so much better if my mouse didn't have cat hair in it. So you have the single parser, which is for a lot of these things like the sort, things like the status stuff. It's a single option. You can't do ands or ors with that. It's a kind of preset. This is what you can have. And then for the Boolean, we catch the other operations, which is a little bit more complex. and you end out of this with either of those funcs, either of those queries that happen, and then as it gets processed, it turns it into one of the SQL any or all nodes. Here. Yeah, in a not node, we just add the all option to the query, which is where I need to be able to be async. Fix that.
I didn't see anything that required a custom parser class. It was just aggregating other little parsers. So maybe you don't need a class.
Yeah, there's nothing about these parsers that are custom,
Okay.
except it aggregates them and it takes as you register them, because we've got so much kind of flexibility in Orchard, and things get registered from different modules, and there's a contents list one filter, and then there's a taxonomy filter and a culture filter. Because they get registered in different places, it needed a little bit of ability to pass some information down. So on the term parser, for example, you tell it what kind of parser you're going to use, and then you pass the func to the parser, which then passes it which then registers it when it creates the node. So I might change that to put it on the context property rather than actually passing it into the parser directly. But I haven't quite worked through that yet. So that's the only reason they're custom, is because as they get created, look at this one here. There's the parser that it works on, and as it creates. Oh, sorry, there is one custom parser in here. The separator parser, which is just been tweaked a little bit from the standard separator, so it resets the delimiter, so that the delimiter, which is the term, this is the delimiter between terms. You actually need to know what that value is, so it resets it as it finds it. So it might make that an option on the standard separator parser to do a reset. All it does is just resets the position after it finds the separator, so it doesn't consume it.
Okay.
Yeah, and the other binding happens in a model binder. So in a custom model binder, we register, we inject the parser and pass it from the query string. Which means on the controller itself, a lot of code here. On the controller itself, it injects a term list, and the query string is Q. So it pre-passes it before it arrives. Still need to do a little tweaking on that, to be honest. It's not working quite as I wanted it to. So we'll see.
That's great. Very nice. Really super useful. It's like GitHub searches, but everywhere we need.
Yeah, and all SQL, so no hassle about what you run. You could easily write another parser here, which captured some loose-end syntax and passed it to loose-end to then pass back to SQL, but we'll see. It might be nice, but that might be more like a feature rather than just a standard part of it all.
Okay. Good. Thanks.